The Minnesota Vikings visiting the Detroit Lions. It is the Detroit Lions by 1.5 or 2 with a total of 52. Brad, this has been one of the most discussed games among talkie heads all week long. How in the world could the 10-2 Minnesota Vikings not be favored? Well, I'm going to let you explain.
Well, I mean, I feel like every other bettor who in the world who has lost fortunes betting against Minnesota each week, and they did all their aggression in one game, didn't they? When they lost by 40. But yeah, I mean, you look at the season long stats, and you could argue Detroit's better, but then you sort of chop it up. Say since Detroit's bye. The offense is top 5 by success rate. The defense is even sort of trending upwards. If you adjust for schedule, they're like 16th in the NFL in EPA allowed. And then you look at the same time period for the Vikings, and they're sort of gradually getting worse throughout the season. And I don't know if that's because people are getting familiar with the new scheme from Kevin O'Connell and they're kind of working out what they're trying to do. So yeah, I would argue that as currently constituted, the Lions have obviously they've got all the line is healthier than it's been all year. Even 2 weeks ago they were like on their 4th and 5th string guards against the Bills, so that they're a little bit healthier up front, and they're getting all these weapons back with Swift, some Brown, DJ Shark, even Jameson Williams back. He played a few snaps last week, and we expect him to ramp up a little bit more. So yeah, I think you just look at the teams on the field, and you'd say the Lions are just probably the better team in my opinion. And then the final thing I'd say is the splits, the way these two teams match up as well. Where Cousins this season has been bad against man, which is obviously what the Lions play. They're like the 5th highest rated man in the league, and then Goff is absolutely shredding zone, which the Vikings play the entire time. So yeah, I think it's a good matchup for the Lions.
Stephen, anyone who is a regular listener, watcher of this podcast knows that we had quite the spirited discussion about the Minnesota Vikings last week. Matt, of course, is a Vikings bettor regularly. You were oppo of him. I decided to sit it out and just play the over. And guess what? Everybody hit their bet last week. Matt laid it with the Vikings against the Jets. You had a teaser with the Jets. And, of course, I had that over. So here we are with a situation where everyone's talking about Minnesota in much that same way again. And I'll echo some of the things that Brad said about Detroit, because I think you can take it to week 8 when they finally were able to put Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift back on the field together again, which they had not been able to do since early in the season, with both of them healthy coming back from injuries. All the metrics have looked absolutely outstanding since then for Detroit. And as Brad mentioned, the defense hasn't been good. It's just been good enough. And the only game in the last 5 that the Lions have lost was the Thanksgiving Day game. They lost on a late field goal to the Buffalo Bills. So should I assume, Stephen, that I know where you'll be on this game, or are you going to surprise me?
No, I'll be on the Lions here. It's a shame Matt's off this week. He'll be back next week. I'm sure we'll have plenty more spirited Minnesota Vikings debates for the rest of the season here. And I think, to drive your point home about Amon-Ra St. Brown, you've been banging this drum for a couple of weeks now, Adam, that it's just as simple as them getting healthy, and that's how they look better. And just to put some numbers behind that, since week 8, when St. Brown came back and played full snaps, the Lions are number 1 in drop back EPA. Goff has the number 3 expected completion percentage, which really isn't a quarterback stat. It's a scheme and route running stat, right? It's how open are these receivers to give you a high expected completion percentage. So Goff is number 3 in that category. So he's playing on easy mode, as our other writer Mo Nawara likes to say. By comparison, since week 8, Kirk Cousins has the number 33 expected completion percentage. So the scheme and his receivers outside Justin Jefferson aren't making it easy on him. And in terms of EPA and success rate, Cousins in that same span is 23rd and 21st by comparison to the Lions, who are 6th and 4th. So offensively, there's really no contest here. Now, I will concede that neither of these defenses have been very good, thus the total that we're seeing. But clearly the Lions have been the better offense here, and the Vikings have been, again, feasting on some fortunate fourth quarters and some coin flips that have gone their way. So, typically, Adam, when we see a situation where a line has gone from, in this case, Vikings -3 on the look ahead all the way over across the 0, maybe, I don't think we'll touch Minnesota +3. But that's typically a spot where we're looking to come back in on the other side. But that's only if you think that the line was correct to begin with. And I think Brad and I probably agree that this line was wrong to begin with. And we've gone through mostly meaningless numbers at this point. And Eli Hershkovich, our lead writer, is on the Lions. He got him early, but he said he'd be comfortable betting them anything under a field goal. So I agree with that. There's been a bit of buyback on the Vikings here as we record on Friday morning. So I'm just waiting to see where this levels out and just try and get a little bit better of a number. But yeah, I mean, I'm fine with anything under 3 here with the Lions.
And of course, keep in mind, as we say always for folks, unless that actually does get out to the 3 on the other side, which of course it's not likely to do.
Right.
We don't pay as much attention to those moves between the 3s as we do, to moves in other key numbers. I'll tell you the one sort of slightly contrarian half a unit play that I have is I had under 53 when it hit that point earlier in the week. We don't spend a lot of time talking about bets that are not currently available, but I think that when we look at these two teams, we see that they do tend to play on the fast side. However, they play opposite depending on whether they have a big lead or whether they have a small leader or small trailing situation. So give it just a small play on that.